My name is Anna. I have been married to Eddie for 7 years, and we have a sweet 4-year-old daughter, Camilla. I always thought we were a happy family. I stayed home to care for Camilla while Eddie worked. Everything seemed perfect, but things changed as Camilla grew. She started asking questions and showing her own personality. Eddie didn't like that. He got angry easily and started saying mean things to her. I tried to stop him, but he just ignored me. Slowly, the warmth in our home disappeared, and I felt like something was terribly wrong. At first, Eddie would just snap at Camilla, but soon he started coming home late or not at all. "Work is stressful," he'd say when I asked. But I knew it wasn't just work. He barely talked to me anymore. When he was home, he spent time on his phone or locked himself in another room. Camilla noticed it too. "Why doesn't Daddy play with me?" she asked one day. I didn't have an answer. I felt helpless. Our happy family was slipping away, and I didn't know how to fix it. One night, Eddie said, "I'll sleep in Camilla's room from now on. You take the big bedroom." I was shocked. "Why?" I asked, but he didn't answer. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. We had always shared a bed. Now he was pushing me away. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what had changed. Had he stopped loving me? Was he hiding something? My heart hurt, but I tried to convince myself it was just a phase. Deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Then Eddie had a big idea. "Let's build a new house," he said one day. I was surprised. He talked about how we needed more space and how Camilla would need her own room. I wanted to believe this meant he still cared about our family. We planned everything together, but something felt off. Eddie rejected all my ideas for furniture and decorations. He picked everything himself. "It's already decided," he said when I complained. The house felt like someone else's dream. But whose? I ignored my worries, hoping this was his way of making things right. The day we were supposed to move into the new house, I was excited. But before I could unpack, Eddie looked at me and said something shocking. "You and Camilla aren't living here." I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. Then, he said the words that shattered my heart. "I have a girlfriend. She's 25. We have a baby together. This house is for us." My whole body went numb. My ears were ringing. Was I dreaming? I looked at him, waiting for him to say it was a joke. But he didn't. Eddie kept talking like it was normal. He said he met his girlfriend at work 3 years ago. He had been staying at her place, not working late like he told me. He had a whole secret life. "She makes me happy," he said, as if I didn't matter. The house, the furniture, everything was for her. I couldn't breathe. My whole marriage had been a lie. He had been planning to leave us for a long time. I had been blind, believing we were still a family while he had already moved on. "This is your fault," Eddie said, his voice cold. "You and Camilla stress me out." My hands shook. How could he blame our daughter for his cheating? I looked at Camilla, who was holding my hand tightly. "We're leaving," I said. Eddie smirked. "Good. Get out. I don't need you." My heart broke, but I refused to cry. He had already taken so much from me. I wasn't going to let him take my dignity too. I had to be strong for Camilla. No matter how painful it was, I knew we had to walk away. I took Camilla and went to my parents' house. When they heard what happened, they were furious. But my grandfather was the angriest. "Leave it to me," he said. 2 weeks later, I returned to see Eddie. He thought I was coming alone. "Hurry up and sign the divorce papers," he said, acting like he didn't care. But then, the door opened. My grandfather walked in. Eddie's face turned pale. "Meet the chairman of your company," I said. Eddie's hands started shaking. He had been insulting the man who had power over his entire career. "You will sign the resignation and divorce papers," my grandfather ordered. Eddie stammered. What? He had no idea that my family owned the company he worked for. He thought he was just divorcing me. He didn't realize he was also losing his job. But the surprises weren't over. The front door opened again. It was Greta, his girlfriend, holding their child. She looked confused. "What's happening?" she asked. I turned to her. "Eddie is jobless. Now you have to support him." Her face went pale. She didn't want a broke man. I saw the regret in Eddie's eyes. Greta was furious. "You told me we'd have a good life," she screamed at Eddie. "You lied." Eddie begged her to stay, but she stepped back. "I didn't sign up for this." Then she walked out, leaving him with nothing. Eddie had destroyed his family for her, and now she had abandoned him. He stood there in shock, realizing he had lost everything: his wife, his job, and now his girlfriend too. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Days later, Eddie called me. "Anna, I made a mistake. Let's fix this." I laughed bitterly. "You threw us away," I said. "Now you want us back because you lost everything?" He sighed. "I miss Camilla." I clenched my fists. "She doesn't need you." Eddie begged, but I had no pity left. He had made his choice, and now he had to live with it. I blocked his number. I was finally ready to move on. I heard from others that Eddie was struggling. He had no job, no money, and nowhere to go. Greta had left their child with her parents and disappeared. Eddie had to work long hours just to survive. His parents felt sorry for the baby, but they wanted nothing to do with Eddie. He had thrown everything away for a fantasy, and now he was paying the price. Camilla and I were happy. No more stress, no more fear. One day she asked, "Mom, do you want a new dad?" I smiled. "Do you want one?" She shook her head. "I just want you to be happy." Her words warmed my heart. Happiness wasn't about finding someone new. It was about loving the family we had. Camilla and I had everything we needed. Eddie was just a bad memory now. Camilla and I settled into our new life without Eddie. There were no more fights, no more tension, just peace. I focused on making our home warm and happy. My family supported us, and my grandfather made sure we never struggled. Camilla laughed more, played more, and seemed happier than ever. One evening, she hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, we don't need Dad, right?" I smiled and kissed her forehead. "No, sweetheart, we don't." I finally realized that happiness wasn't about holding on to the past, it was about embracing the future, and our future looked bright. While Camilla and I moved forward, Eddie's life kept falling apart. Greta had completely abandoned him, leaving their child behind. Eddie had to work extra jobs just to survive. He called me again, his voice weak. "Anna, please, I'm sick. I have no one." I felt no sympathy. "You had a family. You threw us away," I said. He coughed. "I made a mistake." But I didn't care anymore. He was suffering because of his own choices. I blocked his number again, knowing this was the last time I'd ever hear from him. He was nothing to us now. Camilla grew into a smart, strong girl. She never asked about Eddie again. One day she said, "Mom, I'll find someone nice for you." I laughed. "You don't have to worry about that." She grinned. "I just want you to be happy." And I was. I didn't need another man to feel complete. I had my daughter, my family, and a peaceful life. That was enough. The scars Eddie left behind were healing, and I knew I'd never let anyone treat us like that again. Camilla and I had each other, and that was all we needed. Years passed, and Eddie became nothing more than a memory. Camilla and I built a life filled with love and joy. I watched her grow, feeling proud of the strong, kind person she was becoming. One evening she hugged me and said, "Mom, I love you." Tears filled my eyes. "I love you too, sweetheart." At that moment, I realized that despite all the pain, we had won. We had built something Eddie could never destroy, true happiness. Life had given us a second chance, and we embraced it with open hearts, ready for